Have you ever wondered how the rapid advancement of technology affects our jobs and livelihoods? Indeed, technology is advancing at a breathtaking pace. It is like a runaway train hurtling down the tracks at breakneck speed, and it's reshaping every corner of our lives. From the way we communicate to how we shop, even down to our leisure activities, technology has its fingerprints on everything. But let us focus on one specific area, the job market. Technology has the power to create new jobs, but it also has the potential to make others obsolete. Automation, artificial intelligence, and machine learning are no longer concepts that belong in a sci-fi movie. They're here, and they are shaking up the job market in ways we are only just beginning to understand. We see self-checkout kiosks in supermarkets, robots in factories, and AI-powered customer service chatbots. These are all examples of technology replacing human labor. For some, this is a cause for concern. They worry about job losses, the devaluation of skills, and a future where machines rule the workplace. It is a complex issue, and there is no one-size-fits-all answer. But this is not the first time we have faced such a dilemma. In fact, if we turn back the pages of history, we find ourselves in the early 19th century, at the dawn of the Industrial Revolution. This was a time of great change. The introduction of mechanized production methods transformed the textile industry, and with it, the lives of the workers. This period of upheaval gave birth to a movement of people who were deeply concerned about these changes. They were known as the Luddites. As we dive back into history, we reveal a similar situation during the Industrial Revolution, a time when a group known as the Luddites emerged. The Luddite movement was born in the early 19th century, a time of great change and upheaval. This period, known as the Industrial Revolution, brought about a dramatic transformation in the way goods were produced, particularly in the textile industry. Machines powered by steam and water were introduced to replace manual labor, leading to an escalation in production rates and a decrease in manufacturing costs. However, this was not a welcome change for everyone. For the skilled laborers who had spent years honing their craft, these machines represented a threat. They saw their livelihoods being undermined as their artisanal skills were devalued and replaced by mechanized production methods. Job losses were rampant and working conditions began to deteriorate. These laborers, who would later become known as the Luddites, were not opposed to progress or technology in and of itself. Their grievance lay with the fact that the benefits of this progress were not being equitably shared. The factory owners were reaping huge profits, while the laborers were left grappling with unemployment and poverty. Frustration and anger began to mount among these workers. They felt betrayed by a system that was supposed to improve their lives, but was instead leaving them destitute. Their concerns were not just about their immediate livelihood, but also about the future of their craft and their communities. The Luddites, named after their mythical leader Ned Ludd, began to protest in ways that would grab the attention of the nation. They refused to be silent spectators watching their way of life crumble. Instead, they stood up against the tide of change, ready to make their voices heard. Their fight was not just for their jobs, but for a fair and equitable society where the fruits of progress were shared by all. The Luddites, skilled laborers whose livelihoods were threatened, chose to fight back against the machines. Frustrated and fearful, they were determined to make their voices heard, to stand up for their rights, and to challenge the seemingly unstoppable march of industrialization. Their chosen method of protest was as direct as it was destructive. In a world where their skills were being devalued, their jobs threatened, and their working conditions worsened, the Luddites saw the machines as the embodiment of their hardships. So they took hammers to these looms, sledgehammers to spinning jennies. They smashed and shattered the engines of their perceived oppression. But it was not just about destruction. The Luddites also demanded fair wages, a recognition of their worth as skilled workers, and a chance to continue their livelihoods in the face of drastic economic change. Their protests were a plea for justice, a call for balance in a rapidly shifting world. And this was not a localized phenomenon. The Luddite movement swept across England like a storm, touching towns and cities from Nottingham to Yorkshire, from Lancashire to Leicestershire. The sound of hammer on metal echoed through the country, a resounding symbol of resistance against the tide of industrialization. Yet these were not mindless acts of violence. The Luddites were not opposed to technology or progress per se, but to the way it was being implemented without regard for their well-being. Their actions were a desperate attempt to regain control, to assert their place in a society that seemed to be leaving them behind. Their protests, however, were met with a strong and brutal response. The British government, in an attempt to control the situation, responded with harsh measures. The Luddite protests sent ripples of concern through the echelons of power. Not to be outdone by the rising tide of rebellion, the government retaliated swiftly and decisively. A significant move was the introduction of legislation that turned machine breaking into a capital offense. This was a stern message to the Luddites. Their acts of defiance were no longer just damaging property, but were now considered a crime punishable by death. The law was clear: break the machine, and you risk losing your life. However, the government's response did not stop at legislation. With the unrest growing, they decided to call in the big guns, quite literally. Military forces were deployed to the areas most affected by the Luddite protests. Soldiers patrolled the streets, their presence a constant reminder of the government's determination to quell the rebellion. And the measures did not stop there. Many Luddites, now marked as criminals, were hunted down. Arrests swept through the communities, and the courts quickly filled with those accused. The trials were often swift, with the outcome seldom in doubt. Many of those who had dared to stand against the march of the machines found themselves facing the ultimate punishment. Executions became a grim testament to the government's resolve. Yet, the government's harsh response was not the only factor that led to the decline of the Luddite movement. As the years passed, economic conditions began to improve. The same machines that had been the focus of so much anger and fear started to bring about a new era of prosperity. Jobs returned, though they were different from the ones that had been lost. By 1816, the Luddite movement had significantly diminished due to these crackdowns and improving economic conditions. The echoes of the Luddite rebellion, though, continue to resonate, reminding us of the tumultuous relationship between technology, labor, and society. Though the Luddite movement may have faded into history, its legacy lives on. Born out of the early 19th century's Industrial Revolution, it was a cry for fairness, a resistance against the devaluation of skilled labor and worsening work conditions. Today, it informs our understanding of the effects of technological advancement on jobs and livelihoods. The Luddites' fight was not against technology per se, but against the inconsiderate application of it, a fight for the dignity of work and the value of human labor. Their struggle echoes in contemporary debates about automation, artificial intelligence, and the future of work. We see the spirit of the Luddites in modern movements pushing for fair wages, decent work conditions, and the right to meaningful work. Their story serves as a reminder that progress should not come at the expense of people's livelihoods and well-being. As we navigate our own technological revolution, the lessons from the Luddites remind us of the importance of considering the human impact. In the realm of fiction, parallels can be drawn between the Luddite movement and a significant event in Frank Herbert's Dune series, the Butlerian Jihad. This fictional revolution saw humans rise up against the domination of thinking machines. The Butlerian Jihad, much like the Luddite movement, was not a rejection of all technology, but a rebellion against the devaluation of human skills, the loss of human freedom, and the threat to human survival posed by unchecked technological advancement. The methods used in both movements were drastic and violent. The Luddites smashed machines, while the Butlerian Jihad resulted in the complete annihilation of all advanced computing machines. The impacts of these movements were significant and long-lasting. The Luddite struggle helped shape modern labor movements and spark discussions about the human cost of progress, while the Butlerian Jihad led to a complete ban on certain types of technology in the Dune universe, reshaping its society and culture. Both the Luddite movement and the Butlerian Jihad serve as stark reminders of the potential consequences of unchecked technological advancement. They underscore the importance of maintaining a balance between progress and the preservation of human skills, freedom, and dignity. Whether in history or fiction, these movements remind us that technological advancement should be guided by ethical considerations and should serve to enhance, not undermine, human potential and well-being. So, what can we learn from the Luddites? The Luddite movement, born out of the Industrial Revolution, serves as a stark reminder of the tension that can arise from rapid technological advancement. These early 19th century protesters were not simply opposed to technology, but were fighting for the value of their skills and livelihoods, which were threatened by mechanized production. Their actions, drastic as they were, underscore the importance of considering the human element in the face of progress. They remind us that while innovation can bring about immense benefits, it can also create upheaval, displacing workers and devaluing their skills. The harsh response of the British government towards the Luddites' protests, however, tells us that suppressing dissent is not the solution. Instead, it is crucial to find a balance, to ensure that technological advancement is accompanied by measures that protect and support those who might be adversely affected. As we continue to advance technologically, may we always remember the lessons from the past and strive to ensure that no one is left behind in the march of progress.
Thank you for watching. Hope you found this video informative and entertaining. Please subscribe, like, share, and comment. We do like to know and hear your feedback. And if you have the means, please consider supporting us on Patreon, where we post bonus material. Till next time, this is Geeky Tidbits, saying cheers, and have a good day.